If it disagrees with experiment, it's wrong. And that simple statement is the key to science. It doesn't make a difference how beautiful your guess is. It doesn't make a difference how smart you are who made the guess or what his name is. If it disagrees with experiment, it's wrong.
Yeah, look, they said that I couldn't do it, so I went and did it. W's only, you know I've been winning. Top of the world, the globe is spinning. If you know, I've been on a mission. Go. Okay, let's get it. Got a little time on my hands like a wristwatch. I don't got time for the breaks and the pit stop. Race through the gridlock, take it like Chris Rock. Right to the chin, still win. Heavy metals like Slipknot. Got the driving, I got tunnel vision. I just hit my stride the way I run the business. I've been making paper like I'm Dunder Mifflin. See the end game, I got one division. Look, I don't ever bother with a critic. Hit him with a chronicle of Riddick. Boom, bottle full of Ritalin. I hit him with a little bit of riddle me this, riddle me that. My bad, fell asleep at the gas. No time to wait though. Elon Musk, I'm trying to bankroll. New Tesla just cause I say so. Electric whip like Ivan Van Gogh. I just did it. W's only, you know I've been winning. Top of the world, the globe is spinning. If you know, I've been on a mission. Okay, let's get it.
I've been on a mission like totally spice. I'm a baddie, she bad, but she totally nice. Nails are blue and her toes feel like white. They completely match out at the soul for my leg. He knew it for sure, but he left with a why.
All right, let me fix this. What is up, party people? All right, today's going to be interesting. Don't know how this is going to go, but basically, I've been hearing a lot about this new religion that's been around, and I've been fed up with it. I just haven't been able to deal with it. So last night, I was having a conversation with this a very respectful pastor. I got nothing but respect for this pastor, and we had previously talked about having this conversation about his religion and versus reality, and a challenge was issued last night. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to take this very respectful pastor and we're going to have a debate about this. I'm going to show him how much of a religion he is preaching to everyone. So I'd like everyone give a round of applause for Pastor Selenium Prime. Thank you, Selenium, for joining us. Let me get Get a Tex up here. Good morning, Tex. How are you doing?
Same shit, different toilet.
Yep, every day. Okay, so last night, we've had this. Go ahead. I didn't hear you. You were muted.
Oh,
Good
yeah,
morning, sir.
I was trying to say something witty and I muted myself. I would like to begin with the holy words. That the speed of light be constant in all reference frames that are inertial. That the mass and energy distribution be bendy, oh so right. And that the little children be following their geodesics home. Amen.
Amen.
All gravity. All right, sir. Good
May
morning.
peace
So,
be upon the 9.8 constant.
Well, that's the international gravity formula.
so I think I kind of threw the first shots about this, right? We could agree on this.
Yeah.
The reason I did this is because you guys have been doing a lot of general relativity talk. I've been noticing a lot of lectures. Oops. I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't want to disrespect it. Not lectures, sermons. My apologies. And I started to get to thinking, and we've had this conversation where that for me, I'm Newton all the way. Gravity is a force.
Yep.
I could show it to you in everyday life, just right. And then I got to thinking, man, general religion spouts a lot of stuff that no one could actually even prove. And then I started thinking, damn, so does the Bible. And that what is inspired general religion.
There we go.
Yep.
Beautiful.
Yes. So my goal here today is to show you that your general relativity is nothing but a faith. It's nothing but a belief that you carry in everyday life and you overcomplicate so that the masses think you're smart and that it's actually something. Because again, Newton explains reality. Einstein tried to explain beyond reality, just like the Bible. What say you, sir?
Well, first of all, do we agree with the first holy postulate that the speed of light must be constant in all inertial reference frames?
I believe from my reference frame, I can agree that light is of a constant.
Okay. So we are aligned on the first holy postulate.
Yes. I think it's kind of weird that you say reference frame. Why can't we just say observer?
Well, it's just being precise with the language. I mean, it's just how it's framed.
Okay.
What would be the distinction between observer and reference frame? Well, presumably an observer could observe multiple reference frames simultaneously.
No.
Yes.
Okay. This is
What
what I
about
mean.
two different? What if I'm standing on the tracks and I have one train going that way and one train going that way? Yes. And they're both shooting a beam of light as they pass me. Wouldn't that be me observing two different reference frames simultaneously?
Wait, so you're seeing
Yes.
in this direction and that direction at the same time?
Well, if a beam of light comes this way and a beam of light comes that way, I'd be able to see it at the same time.
Yeah, if one's going away from you and one's coming towards you, you're going to see two different reference frames of light.
No,
That's
but
what he's
it's
saying.
but it's all happening in your reference frame.
Right, but there's a left reference and a right reference.
No, it's just light in your reference.
No, because if you spotlight something, Sean, that is your reference. So if you're spotlighting on two different things, there's two different reference points.
Reference points, but from one reference frame. Good morning, Bluemarble.
But that's what he's saying. That's why he doesn't say observer. He says reference frame. Right?
But
Am I
reference
understanding
frame,
that?
But reference frame would be the one, right? For sure. You're saying observer can have can observe two reference frames, but
Right.
a reference frame is one, correct? Just the one.
Yeah. Well, yeah. How do you define So how would you define a reference frame?
Without using an observer.
Oh, that's what they tried to nail me on Flat Earth Fridays.
What?
Yeah. And then
You said
I pulled the little, if a tree falls in a forest and nobody's there to see it.
Mhm.
But then he kept saying a measured event. And then I was like, well, he was basically trying to corner me on some semantic argument around if an event happened and no one was there to observe it.
Does it happen? Yes, absolutely it happens.
But he was basically trying to set up some little flirty game around simultaneity of relativity of simultaneity.
I don't even know what the fuck that is.
So basically, that just means that it's a little bit difficult to explain without a visual, but all it really means is that events cannot appear to happen at the same time in different reference frames. Oh, hey, Totoro.
What's up, Totoro?
Let's go.
How you been, sir?
Events cannot appear to happen simultaneously in different reference frames when those reference frames are moving at a significant fraction of the speed of light. There will be a relativity of simultaneity.
This is one of the points I wanted to have this conversation for.
Yeah.
I believe that it is an over complication rather than oversimplification of a topic. So we're going to get to the point now. I want you to show me how general relativity is of reality.
Well, you're a Newton guy, right?
Absolutely.
So are you aware of the fact that Einstein himself said that that Newtonian theory is fully encapsulated within general relativity?
I would say yes, because he understood that to come up with his theory, everything that Newton had come up with had to encompass what he was saying. The same way, if I came up with a new theory of gravity that worked, my new theory may have additions that weren't ever talked about prior, but no matter what, everything that comes up will have to encompass what has already been known, what has already been shown and can be measured. Constant, light, all that stuff would have to be part of my new theory. And it's the same situation. That's why Einstein acknowledges everything about Newton.
Yeah, well, when you talk about the constancy of the speed of light, not to be like nitpicky, but it wasn't actually measured prior to the 1905 paper that the speed of light was constant. And some would say that it has...
Wait. Didn't the dude with the lantern on the hill measure the speed of light?
He measured the two-way speed of light, but the postulate that the speed of light must be equal in all reference frames is simply that. It's a postulate. And it's a postulate that's required to avoid issues with as you approach a significant fraction of the speed of light. If it were not the case that the speed of light is constant in all reference frames, you would have as a consequence, and this is what the, let's say, how should I put it? Back of the bus science team couldn't understand during the debate that the laws of physics as it relates to electromagnetism would not be the same in all reference frames. And it was that problem which motivated the theory of the luminiferous ether and the idea of Fresnel drag relative to an absolute unmoving ether. And then Einstein realized that the ether, while it was not necessarily wrong per se and as a construct, was superfluous. And by that time, it had been shown in a number of experiments that it could not actually be measured as a stationary construct. Now, Dr. Bennett,
Okay.
Totoro, do you know what he means by this? Dr. Bennett said he'd refer to a Lorentz rigid ether. Is that word salad, or does that actually mean something?
I've never heard that term before.
Okay. What did he say? Let me try to find my notes. Because he actually gave some good feedback to the Aether boys. I don't know if they'll actually take it. So 1 second.
Oh, Slane. On our boy, I don't remember his name. Flat Earth University guy.
Oh,
So he hasn't messaged me back at all. He definitely saw the first message because, like, you know, you can tell on Facebook Messenger. The second message kind of looks like it's been unseen. That was the one actually inviting him to a YouTube live stream. But I noticed on his profile thing, like in the Messenger, it kind of says like, what did it say? It said like life coach or blah. It's like it just has like all his little jobs and shit. Every single one. If you type them in, the first thing that pops up, internet scams. One was weight loss by Bazarian. The other one was fuck, I don't remember. I was looking at it last night. I'd have to look at it again. But yeah, something's definitely up with that dude. Definitely.
Yeah. Something weird is going on there for sure.
Yeah. But I digress. I apologize. Hang on, let me put this out. Hang on. I want to be on camera, but I don't want to smoke a cigarette on camera. It seems weird.
Yeah, fair enough.
Okay. Weed is fine. I don't care. Text.
Oh, yeah.
Weed is fine. But I didn't want to smoke a cigarette. Cigarettes looks weird. So like I said, I digress. I want to get to the point of the reality of what you're talking about.
Yeah, so that's why I want to start with special relativity, because you can make a pretty clear case as to why it was needed. I have less of a case for general relativity, but maybe with Totoro's help, we could get there.
Okay. Before you start, would you agree that special relativity acknowledges gravity as a force?
I don't know.
Special relativity doesn't really touch on gravity at all.
Yeah.
Special relativity is only valid for cases where
What's up,
the gravitational curvature is negligible.
But would you say that when Einstein wrote special relativity, he acknowledged gravity as a force?
He didn't talk about it at all.
But did he acknowledge it as a force?
I don't think he really had an opinion on it.
But he would have had to decide to come up with a theory, general relativity, right? Special relativity was long enough before special or general relativity that at the time science would have acknowledged gravity as a force.
I suppose. I think you're trying to derive a separation in physics that physicists generally don't do, which is you're trying to ascribe that the model of saying something as a force therefore means forces are real things you can touch. That's not how it works. So force is a mathematical construct or a concept.
Absolutely.
Like.
Yeah. No. What I mean is how do I say it? So
you can even view, if you want to, the effects of general relativity as a force field, if that helps you.
Oh, I think we've had this conversation. I 100%. I'm definitely going to get to that part where I think general relativity has to acknowledge gravity as a force to begin, and that just goes along with more of the concept that Einstein is explaining something different, not explaining that a force isn't it. Make sense? No. Okay. I'll make it easy. Okay. So when we talk about Newton and the concepts that he came up with, the theories that he came up with, laws that he came up with, those things are things we can physically measure and test. Right? It is very real world applicable.
Sure.
Correct?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm saying is that aspect Einstein would have acknowledged, and I understand that special relativity doesn't talk about a force. My only reason for bringing that up is the current knowledge of the times would have been acknowledged in his idea, right? Everything Newton said would have to still work with anything Einstein comes up with. Even general relativity still has to acknowledge what Newton says and what Newton comes up with for him to have come up with those theories to prolong the explanation.
Yes, it can't. So, yeah, the general relativity must not contradict Newton where Newton works. Yes.
Yes, and
Well,
at no point.
To be more exact, general relativity must not disagree with Newton where Newton agrees with experiment. To be
Yes, exactly. Okay, and that is where the fun starts, Selenian, and I hope you're ready for it. I think that general relativity, and I know you're going to talk about special, well, I'll let you, but general relativity is all the faith in what's already been said, concepts made up.
Well, yeah. So I think again, going back to why Einstein develops things, right? Einstein develops special relativity. Are you familiar with the coil and the magnet that he talks about in the paper, right? And that was one of the primary examples. So when, the whole paper being called The Electrodynamics of Moving Bodies, the theory had a real purpose to resolve those seemingly paradoxical situations and resolve the problem of the issues that would arise from a non-constant speed of light without some sort of ether that could be dragged that would explain that. In a similar vein, general relativity proceeds from Einstein's realization of the equivalence principle, which basically, I mean, unless you believe, I don't think you believe space is fake and gay, right?
No.
Okay.
No, it's real. And I would say asexual.
Okay. All right.
No, space is definitely gay.
It's definitely gay. Yeah.
No, there's no sexuality of it.
Do you
Well,
see how many holes it wants you to fill, Sean?
Yeah,
there are
true.
so many holes in space. Space is
just
gay.
saying. No, I'm just saying.
That's okay. It's okay to be gay. Like the space can be gay if it wants to be.
It's definitely asexual.
2024.
That's why it's asexual.
What about gay space communism? What is your position on gay space communism, Sean?
I think in space it'd probably be a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there are any rules in space.
What about fully automated luxury gay space communism?
As we have learned from Red Alert, space is yet the only place where which hasn't been corrupted by capitalism.
Yes, that's correct.
I say BS. I think it's well on its way. Taking things to Mars, taking things to the moon, projects with asteroids. I think it's well on its way for that.
Yeah. Well, but my point is to, suggest that in a similar vein to there being a fundamental basis for the theory of special relativity that Einstein was able to sort of elegantly solve, the same is sort of true in the general theory, and it largely proceeds from the equivalence principle, which just simply states that a non-inertial frame accelerating will be indistinguishable for all intents and purposes from a frame that is being affected by gravitation.
Okay.
Do you watch The Expanse at all? Have you seen that series?
No. Possibly.
It's really good. It's my favorite sci-fi series, maybe my favorite show, period. It's excellent. But one of the things they do a great job of is establishing that the acceleration of spaceships, and they have special like fusion drives that allow them to maintain like near constant acceleration create what is effectively gravity. It's basically indistinguishable from gravity locally on the spacecraft. So there's no fancy gravity generator. It's just literally you point the spacecraft in one direction, you accelerate. Halfway there, you flip and burn. You accelerate in the opposite direction. And for all intents and purposes, you line up the decks of the spacecraft so that they're perpendicular to the axis of acceleration. And for all intents and purposes, there's no way to tell the difference between that acceleration and that produced by gravitation. And that's the equivalence principle.
Now, is that something that can be tested in reality?
Yes. In space.
How would you how would you do so here?
Have you seen the example with the water bottle with the holes poked in the bottom?
No.
That's a pretty cool one. It's a demonstration. I think, Totoro, that's a demonstration of the equivalence principle, right?
I'm not sure. I would go with a demonstration on the vomit comet.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good one.
Like the density columns and all that?
Possibly. So the vomit comet, also known as a parabolic or a zero-G flight, is where you go into an airplane and you do these kind of like up and down hill rides, right? So the airplane basically starts a steep climb, and then they push over, and start basically they cancel out. You're falling down through gravity by the airplane, basically pushing over and pushing the nose down. And what you will experience is if they do it right, you will feel completely weightless. You will basically be in a free ballistic trajectory inside of the airplane. You'll basically float about in the airplane. Yep, just like that. And you will not be able to tell whether you're in orbit or whether you're out in space away from a gravitational field. You will not be able to distinguish between the two cases. Or in this case, you're actually inside of a gravitational field. You're just on a ballistic trajectory. There you go.
Yes.
In fact, if you know the movie Apollo 13, the one with Tom Hanks in it, they shot a lot of the zero-G shots where the actors are seen fully and floating about inside of the spacecraft. A lot of those were actually shot in what's called the zero-G flights, or they're called the vomit comet because everybody pukes in them.
Yeah. Let's see. Trying to find a better one.
Because the zero-G phase only lasts for about 20 seconds, give or take. So they have to shoot it in like 10-second increments, which kind of works for movies because the longest shot in the movie is typically about 10 seconds anyway. But because you had to do many, many, many takes, it's a constant up and down and up and down. And if you do it 50, 60 times in an hour, eventually you will reach your
vomit threshold.
Yeah, your puke threshold for most people. I mean,
a similar response is triggered when you get flat earthers to the cog-dis boundary.
Probably.
That I didn't know they did. I've never seen this one. They put out a fish tank. Okay, back to it. Okay, so that would be based in reality.
There you go.
But you would also agree that the vomit comet can be explained through Newton as well, right? So everything you were talking about is just as explainable with Newton.
Yes, what we're trying to say here is this is demonstrating the equivalence principle in that you would not be able to tell whether you're inside of a gravitational field on a free parabolic trajectory or whether you're out in outer space completely away from a gravitational field under no effects. The two effects are equivalent. This guy looks kind of like Mordwand, actually, like Sea Lion here.
He kind of does.
But I don't have awesome blue hair and beard, man.
Not yet. Not yet.
Well, obviously, this was shot during your wild years.
Yeah, that's true.
Foreshadowing.
Anyway, point being, so, you can't distinguish this case from being completely away from a gravitational field, out in outer space, somewhere in interstellar space, nothing there, nothing nearby, versus being in a gravitational field, but being on a free ballistic orbital trajectory, basically inside of that gravitational field. The two are equivalent. And conversely, it is effectively the same thing as if you were standing on the surface of a massive planet with a gravitational field, the acceleration you feel on there, the basically like the push up from the planet you feel there, is effectively exactly the same as if you were as if you were in outer space, completely away from a gravitational field, just in a rocket accelerating at like 1 g.
This is the same thing as the elevator
Yes,
paradox thing.
exactly. It's just Einstein was familiar. He was in a time when rocket flight was not a thing, so he used the elevator example and train example. Whereas in our days, you'd probably use a rocket and an aircraft.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
But the point, the interesting thing next that comes out of it is Einstein then realized that the equivalence principle implies that gravity. Well, so this is an interesting thing, right? And I think this is maybe what you're missing about gravitation, is that Newton's theory, or Newton does not have a theory of gravitation.
These laws.
Correct. So he has laws, but there's no causal mechanism of gravity within Newton. And Newton was struggling with that towards the end of his work, and actually positing an aether to mediate. He didn't like the fact that there wasn't a mechanism to mediate action at a distance between masses. So we can say,
what you're meaning is once he left the surface of Earth, things started getting complicated.
No, we don't need to leave the surface of Earth for things to start to be for things to start to make sense within general relativity. Because
no. What I mean is Newton, his yeah. So what I'm trying to then show is, again, and express, is that once we start using general relativity is when we stop looking at reality.
Well, I mean, it's a model of reality, as all theories are.
It's a concept.
Well, sure, but
reality.
Are you familiar with quantum electrodynamics?
No, not even a little bit.
So two magnets interact with each other.
Yes.
That's very simple, right? Reality.
Very simple. Yep.
We can describe the magnetic fields on the basis of classical magnetism. What is the cause of that magnetic field?
We don't know.
Well, that's the thing. The quantum electrodynamics describes the causal mechanism of magnetism on the basis of virtual particles. Now, is that strictly speaking what's happening?
Wait, did you say virtual particles?
Yes.
Yes, they do. Yeah.
So we are still in the complete understanding that we're not talking about reality right now.
Well, that's my point. That's my point, because the issue that people tend to have with general relativity is this notion of it being abstract in some sense, like space-time is not a thing having physical qualities. But our theory of magnetism, which is one of probably the most experimentally verified and substantiated theories in all of science, the field of quantum electrodynamics, is extremely precise at describing magnetic and electric interactions, is entirely based on this idea of virtual particle exchange.
So the virtual particle exchange part would be everything in between all these arrows, correct?
Correct. That's what's creating the magnetic field, as it were.
But we are both in agreement that all these arrows are not real. Well, wait. Everyone stop. Thank you, Sean. I absolutely appreciate the super chat. He says, we know gravity is fake because we don't see videos of Isaac Newton in space. Eat that, globetards. I agree.
Now I got to AI generate Isaac Newton in the vomit comment with an apple.
Yes, now you're going to have to, because the something that has happened here is that I still have not seen any reality to your general relativity.
Well, that's my point, though, is that all physics. Do you know what spin is? I know I'm
context,
but I'm just giving other. So, spin is a intrinsic property of particles that describes something that gives rise to the magnetic moment, for example, which describes why a silver atom, despite being electrically neutral, nonetheless reacts with a magnetic field in an inhomogeneous magnetic field. Well, spin, that sounds like it makes sense, right? The thing is spinning. No, it's
Okay,
not.
I think it's
Not
it's kind of like the current that it runs.
Sort of, but again, like my point is, there's like, we can say that atoms are modeled as like atoms that have a magnetic moment are modeled as a bar magnet, but that's just a model. It's not actually a bar magnet. So my point is to say, I think you have an aversion, which makes sense, to what seems like an abstract theory that is not, strictly speaking, reality. But what I'm telling you is that all of modern physics, when we get to the causal theories, has the same properties. And all of our models are merely our best attempts to quantify and predict phenomena on the basis of almost metaphors, as it were. Because particles don't actually spin. An electron doesn't actually spin.
I get what you're saying, because that's like saying, and I understand it. It's like me having this lighter and going, that's gravity, and saying, it's not gravity, it's the lighter falling. But then the explanation is what you're saying. The issue isn't so much that, because I get that part, and I understand that even this word we call gravity is that, and anything beyond that word is exactly that. The issue I have is that for Newton, things are, every measurement, every experiment test that you would establish to verify is all a very physical black and white in relatively. Whereas once we start getting into the general relativity aspect of it, there has to be a lot of, well, if, or it must be, or we have to add this to make it work, rather than just have these observable realities to put in place for these things.
Well, but that's the thing, though, right? It comes to the distinction between a law and a theory, right? Theories themselves are the best explanation that we have for a phenomena that's described by natural laws. The laws themselves do not, in the strictest sense, predict exactly what's going to happen, per se, and especially with gravitation, right? We know that gravitation will be produced between two objects as per Newton's law. And if we restrict our analysis wholly on Earth, that's completely sufficient. But it will not describe any causal mechanism that is causing that attraction based on mass.
But
in a similar way to like the Lorentz force, when we look at the Lorentz force in magnetism, we need the theory of quantum electrodynamics to explain why the field propagates, why the Lorentz force is produced, on what types of particles does it affect.
Yes, but even on that scale, all you're still saying to me, all I'm hearing is a better way of saying it, is that for this to be explained, it must do this. Therefore, it does it.
Well,
it's not actually like for instance, the idea of how atoms spin, for example, wouldn't be a concept of we observe something. It's more of a, for this to be right, it must be doing this. Kind of. Okay, so in the explanation of that, is that the true cause, or is that the explained cause?
Well, I don't know that there is a true cause per se. I don't know that that's even knowable. When it comes down to it,
I agree.
We say that atoms spin or particles spin not because they literally spin, but because the property of spin behaves in a similar way to a gyroscope. When we pass those particles, so I have a presentation on the Stern-Gerlach experiment I could walk you through sometime, but in that experiment, when we pass atoms that have a magnetic moment through a magnetic field, the property of spin causes them to precess, in a similar way that a gyroscope precesses. And that precession causes measurable effects that are highly significant. So again, is the particle actually spinning? No. Does it behave as if it were spinning? Yes. And that's I think the distinction. When it comes to why Einstein developed a theory of, reified bendy spacetime, as the distractors would say, is purely to do with the equivalence principle and his realization that gravitation, therefore, must be a consequence it is explained best as a consequence of geometry. And it's a little bit harder for me to dig into that. I have to run to a meeting, but that's the basis. And what I'm trying to draw an analogy to is that this is largely true of all of modern physics. And all of those theories are, extremely effective at making predictions, despite relying on metaphors, let's say, that may not be strictly true. But once you get into it, everything becomes that. The simplest properties in physics, the more you telescope down, okay, well, gravity, mass. What's mass? Well, we know mass and energy are equivalent. We've proven that through fusion and fission energy. There's an equivalence principle. So what is mass? Why is energy different from mass? And then you get into the Standard Model and the Higgs field, and it goes down further and further and further. So I think the more you look into it, the more you'll find that the simplest thing you can imagine becomes more and more metaphorical the further down the chain of causal we go. And that's what I would say. But I got to run. But
okay.
Maybe pick up again, or Totoro could maybe explain more. But sorry, I have a meeting I got to run to. But this was fun, Sean. Thanks for having me on. Absolutely.
Yeah, come on in. If we're still around, more welcome come back in. And we will definitely continue this. Absolutely. No, I get the idea of what he's saying, but it's very, very much so has to add the further down that line of idea and theory of how things work and what's going on. The further down that line you go, the more add-ons you have to add on to it. Example that I know off the top of the head is
Not sure I'd call it add-ons. It just becomes a lot more distant from our common sense, and that's kind of expected. We do not operate at the scale of either galaxies or subatomic particles. We just don't. So we have to help ourselves out, and that's normal. I think one thing that you have a bit of a hang up there, Sean, is you're looking for the why, and physics doesn't answer ultimately physics doesn't answer why questions. It answers how questions. So whenever you're asking, why does the apple fall, physics is going to tell you it falls because, and it's going to tell you a mechanism by which you can predict how it's going to fall. It never tells you, for example, why do positive and negative charges attract? Like there might be some underlying mechanism, but then you might question, okay, but why does that underlying mechanism do it this way? And you might call that an infinite regress, or you might simply say it's just something so incredibly strange and abstract that we cannot grasp it with our minds. So I think fundamentally, you kind of just have to let go of the trying for the ultimate cause, because physics doesn't really deal with ultimate causes. That's kind of a religious thing.
Then would you say that going beyond Newton, and this is obviously this is just for the sake of my argument, going beyond Newton isn't necessarily necessary, especially for everyday life? I guess what I'm asking is my willing to die on a hill for gravity to be a force
so
even wrong?
I think it's an unnecessary sacrifice. You can view gravity as a force in many contexts, and if that helps you, sure. The problem why we go beyond Newton in the explanation of gravity is that Newton's simple laws do not agree with the experiment in certain cases. And there is no way to make them reconcile without extending them to something like general relativity.
Example?
So one of the problems, in this case, it was a very well-known problem in astronomy for like 100 years before Einstein came on the scene, was the orbit of Mercury. That was a very well-known problem. And there is about a couple of arc seconds a century where the perihelion of Mercury, so Mercury has an elliptical orbit, and the closest point of approach to the sun is called the perihelion. And the problem was that that perihelion was slowly turning around the sun, so to speak, right? So as Mercury makes its orbit, eventually that entire orbit is kind of twisting around. And the problem is that if you apply Newton's laws to all the best measurements that we had, you couldn't explain a small residual turning part. It kept on processing, even though Newton says this should not be here. And with a century of measurement and refinement, the problem was not going away. So that's where Newton started to diverge from experiment. And Einstein, when you apply his mathematics to the problem, he comes up with the right answer. He agrees with experiment better than Newton.
But trying to figure out how to form the question I had. When explaining, just drew blank. I don't think it's a hang up. Damn it. It was a really good thought too. The issue that I have with what you're saying, or no, okay, now I remember exactly what I was going to say. This is the situation where they thought there was another planet, right?
No.
That was one of the early proposed solutions, but eventually it turned out that it wouldn't work. Like they kept looking for a century for another planet, and it just wasn't there, where it would have been predicted by Newton. And by now we would have found it if it was there.
No, yeah. Okay, so, but that would be what I consider of not our reality. It is of our reality, though. But does it? So how does it, if it doesn't work, Newton doesn't work with this situation, how does it then get explained and Newton not have to be thrown out?
It isn't that it doesn't work, Sean.
Okay.
It's that there is a tiny unexplained deviation between what you would predict with Newtonian mechanics and what you actually measure in the field. And the number is about 43 arc seconds per century. That's enormously tiny, right? And that's with Mercury, right? So you can't use Newtonian mechanics to get an exact, precise answer for where the perihelion of Mercury is going to be next year, or 5 years from now, or 100 years from now. But it's not a situation where it doesn't work. No, it's a very good approximation. Let's put it that way. A very, very good approximation.
The resolution, I think, to your conundrum there, Sean, is that you're thinking that basically what Newton's problem was is that there was some other effect, some other influence that he hadn't considered in his equation. The Newtonian law basically takes certain assumptions that things like the passage of time and space is perfectly Euclidean, passage of time is perfectly uniform, and therefore with those assumptions in, you can make this simple equation and certain other things, but you can make this simple equation that's going to work where all those assumptions hold true. But the problem is that Mercury is just about close enough to the sun where the gravity of the sun is going to start causing these very, very slight effects. And that will eventually show up in your astronomical measurements as a slight deviation. So there was, basically, you can think of it like there was confounding variables that Newton hadn't taken into account. And when they become significant, that's where he starts to deviate. His theory starts to deviate from actual experiment. Make sense?
Okay. Yes. Yeah, I see.
And in order to resolve this problem, Einstein had to come up with a whole truckload more math to tie it into a cohesive theory, which in itself, if you take the what we call the Newtonian limit, where you basically say that there's not a whole lot of space-time curvature, there's and you take some simplified assumptions, and like the gravity field is like nicely uniform, and you're not moving at super high speeds, then you can get the Newtonian equations back out of it if you take these simplifying assumptions.
Okay, so would this be a good analogy? Newton was very much into numbers, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, and because of that, he wasn't as precise. Einstein introduced the decimals. He started to explain and shift what was in between those decimal marks to explain what was happening in between Newton's issues. But would that be
sort of? It's more. I would like to explain it more like Newton was a higher level view, whereas Einstein gets more into the underlying mechanisms, like the causal, like there's a richer structure underneath of which can show up as Newtonian gravity, but in the more generalized case, this structure has more aspects to it, and if it occurs in another set of conditions, it can look like something different, like a different effect or like a different measurement. Basically, it'll disagree with Newton's special case. I guess you might say Newton is a special case of general relativity for certain conditions.
Okay.
That's the best way of saying it.
It makes more sense when you say it that way. So would you say that, how do I say this? Would you say that in the grand scheme of things, and I understand that, general relativity describes gravity as an acceleration, but it still has to acknowledge that it's a force, right?
If you want to, yeah, once you have an acceleration in hand and you have a mass of an object that's experiencing that acceleration, if you want to, you can just take F equals ma and reformulate it in terms of a force. If that helps you, sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. That's like essentially why I die on this hill of Newtonian.
If that makes you feel warm and fuzzy, go for it. It's just not necessary in the core theory itself. The core theory is just going to give you paths and accelerations along those paths. And if you feel like reformulating that into a field of forces, like a vector field, go for it. It's just superfluous.
It makes more. It makes more sense to me. I mean,
it might make more intuitive sense. Yeah.
Does it make more sense to form a rocket equation using Newtonian or general relativity?
Oh, definitely Newtonian. That's far simpler.
Yeah. So, and that's kind of how I look at it. I kind of like I said, it's definitely based on my applied understanding of it, right? Because general relativity is definitely over it.
Like I said, in the cases where you don't have to go to the fully generalized general relativity equations, Newton is perfectly adequate for limited cases which most of them actually apply, like within our solar system. That's fine. You can use those equations and they're going to work 10 ways to Sunday. It's only for very high masses or very high velocities or a combination thereof where you have to go to the fully generalized theory, because with their Newtonian assumptions are Newton's simplified model no longer is going to give you massively different predictions from where you think it should be, or where measurement is going to tell you it actually came out.
Can you put satellites in orbit using only Newtonian?
Yes. I'm going to shortcut there. All navigation within the solar system, by way of spacecraft, by way of the the Curiosity rover flying to Mars, all space satellites, stuff like that, it's all Newtonian. It simply disregards general relativity because you don't care if a satellite is off by 5 feet if your orbit is 20,000 miles. It just does not matter. And at the end of the day, various other perturbations and effects, things like the non-even or even things like where the moon was at any given point, or even the mass distribution of the moon, is probably going to have a greater effect on perturbing your orbit and making you sort of not follow the exactly predicted path of your simplified Newtonian mechanics. It's probably going to be more of an effect than the very, very, very tiny deviations that general relativity would predict. So at the end of the day, you're still going to have to use corrections anyway.
Yeah. So then would you agree that when people use general relativity or satellites and their orbits and etc. as proof of general relativity, it's not necessary to do that, right? It's
nobody should use the orbits of satellites as a proof of general relativity. The thing where we say that is a verification of general relativity is GPS satellites. It's not their motion, not necessarily their orbital path. We're talking about the passage of time on their atomic clocks, which is affected by both their velocity and how high up in the gravitational field of the Earth they are. That is a thing that Newton doesn't predict, but which is absolutely measurable using, atomic clocks can measure differences down to individual meters of height in their deviation.
Would time dilation be able to be figured out through Newton? Or is that's
No, Newton has no assumption. None of Newton's laws has any component to where a time dilation would be a natural component of them. He basically assumes that all effects happen at the same time, and the passage of time is uniform within all reference frames.
Okay, yeah, there is no space-time in his.
Correct.
Okay.
It's not so much space-time. Is if you look at his equations from the point of view of different, observers on like different moving frames, everybody shares the same t value, the same time coordinate.
Okay, so in his concept, everyone's solar noon is the same time.
So to speak.
And just an analogy of it.
Yeah, an analogy. Yeah, everybody measures everybody's clock. Once you synchronize the clock for everybody, the clocks will remain eternally synchronized regardless of how they move. Whereas that is not the case in general relativity, and even in special relativity. In special relativity, if you look at the time coordinates for each of the reference frames, everybody's going to have a different, like a T0, T1, T2. Everybody's going to have a different time, and you need to convert between them using a certain set of rules.
And I'd love to argue against that, but I know for a fact we know that is 100% real, because and I'm sure you know about the NASA twins.
I'm not sure.
I
know there were twins. I know there were one twin was in space and the other one wasn't, but I don't think you could. I don't think the amount of time dilation between them would have been significant enough.
It was. It actually was. Hang on, let me get the article up, so I don't.
Okay, I don't know how they would measure that, but whatever.
No, okay. So there was. Okay, so the guy he spent a year in space, at the ISS. When he came back,
so what happened? Did they shove an atomic clock in his butt, or what?
Oh no, they did a lot of testing. These two are identical.
Yes.
Let me go through it real quick, because there's definitely things that changed. Let me see.
Because the amount of time dilation would have been, I don't know, maybe a second or two over the course of a year. Probably even less than that. Way less than that.
Uh, 91.3% of Scott's gene expression levels returned to normal baseline within 6 months of landing.
That's not time dilation, though.
Yeah, twins provided the most consecutive iteration. Molecular review of data of how the human body responds to space flight. Biological. Key genes were identified to help a target from. No, these aren't the right things I'm looking for.
Like, I know that they were monitoring them primarily for things like genetic expression and bone mass and muscle mass, bone
Yeah.
strength and muscle mass, obviously that's going to be very valuable.
But that would be more.
Yeah, that'd be massive effects just from the zero.
Yeah, it's just a bot. Yeah, that's not a
weightlessness, radiation exposure, that kind of stuff. Yeah, because the radiation environment on the ISS is quite a bit harsher than down here on Earth.
I'm gonna find a better story on it because I know there was some results.
I think they might have just met. I'm not aware of any measurement on that. I think it's more like, well, we've calculated the difference, and now, well, the twin that went into space is now, 2 microseconds older than the first one, even though it's kind of a pointless difference.
But it's still a difference.
I mean, yes, he has 2 microseconds less of his life left, I guess. It's not really all that much.
Yeah, same genetic makeup. The studies provided a way for scientists to explore. Okay, yeah. Okay, so maybe I misconstrued. Okay, so the fact that they were twins only gave them a comparison for space and Earth effects.
Okay. Yes, which is still valuable. You want to have
no, absolutely. No, yeah. I think overall that, I mean, gene expression simple taken before. Okay, yeah, so that's just how the body reacts to the different area. Biochemistry. What were you looking? No, that wouldn't be it. Yeah, so basically, yeah. So how long would it take for them to be no longer twins?
So GPS time drift is based about 38 microseconds per day. So a few milliseconds would have been the difference nerd there over the course of a year. Like maybe 10 milliseconds or so. So in other words, that's just the problem, is that the Earth's gravitational field is not very strong. In order for it to be significant, you would have to go to a really, really massive object. At which point you probably don't want to be standing on it.
So, like Mars, Pluto, all these places have different days, different years.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
that has very little to do with general relativistic gravitational effects. It's basically
No, this is more of a sci-fi question. Would our bodies start to adapt to that? So, like, if we could put a toddler on Mars, and the toddler would be about fine, food, grow up. This thing has to grow up. Would its lifespan be the same as ours right now?
Unknown. I'm not sure. That's actually one of the things where Sealion is going to be absolutely aching for you to watch The Expanse, because that was actually addressed in the series. In the Expanse universe, Mars had been colonized, a few hundred years prior to the story basically commencing. So there were already several generations worth of native-born Martians, and that's one of the things that since on Mars you only have about 40% of the gravity of the Earth. Martians grew up, less muscular, more slender, and one of the things is that since Mars was kind of a militaristic society, they were expecting that perhaps they were going to have to fight Earth eventually. So they had to train inside of centrifuges where they would simulate Earth gravity. And when Martians they had like still diplomatic relations with Earth. And when Martians came to Earth, they had to get accustomed to, when they were deboarding their spaceship on the Earth, they were having trouble walking about. They were really not used to the extreme high intensity, solar radiation, that kind of stuff, because on Mars they basically were living inside of bunkers. So they were basically dealing with a lot of the sort of entering into an alien environment where their bodies had not adapted to living on the Earth. They basically adapted to living in a lower gravity, a lower radiation environment.
I have seen documentaries kind of like that, where like it showed like what it wasn't so much humans, it was just life, and they kind of showed like, I think it was pretty sure it was Mars, where like it would be like these flying things that had no real muscle, but like they always had to fly because they were so heavy that if they landed, they never take off. Was that part of the same one?
Not the Expanse. The Expanse didn't have much of any aliens in it.
Okay.
But there's a bunch of sci-fi about that. One of the starting, I think that it was actually in the pilot episode, one of the main characters there was doing a thing called gravity torture, which was officially frowned upon, but somebody was still doing it, where they would take what they call, what were they called? The people who lived in the asteroid rim, basically. They were living on spaceships and stuff, so they were basically permanently either in microgravity or just very slight gravity when their ships were accelerating, and so therefore they were very low muscle mass. They had very weak bones. And so basically, the way to torture them to get information out of them is they would basically just hang them up on hooks, but not in a matter like they're pierced their skin or something. It was just literally just they would hang you on under your arms, and let Earth's gravity pull on you, and they were feeling it as pain.
Oh shit, that's pretty
Yeah,
smart.
yeah. And so the merciful way to keep them on Earth, so to speak, is to put them in a water tank and like a Bacta tank, and just give them a breathing apparatus, so they'd be suspended in buoyancy. That wouldn't hurt them, but if you pull them out of there and put them up on force them to stand up or support their weight, that would be torture for them.
Damn. So then ultimately, so when we talk about like interstellar travel, when we talk about Mars colonization, moon colonization.
So the Expanse was all interplanetary travel technically. So all their spaceships was just within the solar system.
So when we talk about doing stuff like that, it wouldn't even be a situation of we just need to be able to the word is slipping my brain, when you add an atmosphere to a place, terraform. It's not about just terraforming. We'd have to figure out the whole gravity thing, and then even worse, we'd have to figure out what would happen with any of our species that was then born at one of these places and how that would affect them.
So the Martians were never trying to add gravity. That was not a thing, because you'd have to literally just make the planet bigger, which is not at all practicable. Although they had a multi. No. You'd have to add mass. That is not doable. Not in any practical way.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
The way that the Martians did it in the the way that the Martians in the Expanse were doing terraforming, they knew that it was a project for hundreds and hundreds of years, or probably thousands of years. They were a fairly weird militaristic, dictatorial society where everybody was kind of it was kind of like, I don't know, think of a weird combination of space communism and militaristic society, where everybody had to pull their own weight, and so the entire society was working towards terraforming Mars to where they were eventually going to have like 1 atmosphere worth of pressure, or some, where they were going to be able to have liquid water on Mars and sufficient temperature where they wouldn't have to walk in spacesuits around anymore. Because they were still, all of Martian society was still living sort of underground in bunkers for hundreds of years, and they knew that was still going to be the case for many hundreds of years. But they were working towards their colonization project or terraforming project, where they were like releasing greenhouse gases into the air and making sure that Mars was building up an atmosphere over time.
Would that be? How long would it take for us to live on the moon?
Well, the moon is never going to hold up onto an atmosphere, so you can just about stop. Not even try.
But we don't need to build an atmosphere. We just need to build structures that can contain an atmosphere.
Sure, yeah, but the Martians, what they were trying to do in the Expanse was they were trying to actually make Mars have an actual atmosphere so that they wouldn't have to live inside of domes, because they already had domes there.
Wait. You couldn't put an atmosphere on Mars.
On Mars, you just about can. Mars just about has enough gravity to where it would be able to hold on to an atmosphere. Not for geological times, probably, but probably for thousands upon thousands and probably millions of years. You could, if you put in enough gas, Mars would hold on to it for a fair amount of time.
So literally, you would just pump whatever you would pump oxygen onto the surface in high volumes, obviously. But
not
would that
not
be
just oxygen. Yes, oxygen,
but
CO2,
air, basically?
air. They were thinking of. I mean, there are plans to use them. In, like nuclear reactors to vaporize Martian rock and make that into break it up into hydrogen and oxygen and make either molecular oxygen and or water vapor, that kind of stuff. Basically, you try and vaporize enough material on Mars to make an atmosphere.
So to do so, you would almost you would want as much exhaust emission as possible.
Yes, it's the opposite. On Mars, driving your 4x4 big rig would be the best way to do it. Yes, you actually do want a greenhouse effect on Mars.
That's man, that really fucking throws your brain for a loop when you think about that. It's like everything we're trying to stop here is exactly what they want there, or what you would want there.
Yes.
But that's not a feasible thing for us to ever do, is it?
Not yet. It is.
It would make more sense to put large containers that encompassed an atmosphere.
So for sure, that's going to be the first step. For sure. So the first Martian colonies, if there are ever going to be some, I hope there are probably going to be subterranean. So they're going to be essentially underground bunkers.
When you say finish. Martian colonize, you do mean humans colonizing, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
So colonizing Mars is probably at first going to look like you're going to essentially live inside of a subterranean bunker, with like tunnels and everything, that kind of stuff. Eventually, you might start building some surface level domes, but the problem is that Mars doesn't have a magnetic field, so the surface radiation is fairly harsh. You'd need a fairly thick glass or some kind of a protective surface, such that you wouldn't get like massively irradiated and stuff over time.
Like a tinted dome.
It's not so much sunlight. It's more like high energy charged cosmic rays and that kind of shit. It's
the same idea that you can get sunburn on a cloudy day would be the same situation of tinting.
Yes, times 1,000.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was just stating that there's no way of actually blocking it in that regards.
I mean, there is. It's just you need a lot of material. A meter thick layer of glass would probably do it. It's just that's not easy to make.
Essentially, a Faraday cage.
More like a 10 layers of bulletproof glass layered on top of each other might do it.
But that would be something they would do anyway, right? I mean, because at that point you would worry about meteors coming in. I'm pretty sure it's hit. So probably.
Mars has just about enough atmosphere to where most meteors are going to burn up. So it's not completely unprotected where you're just going to get orbital velocity impacts on the surface. But it will still you will still get the occasional chunk of rock falling down and making a hole. But
yeah, I don't think any planet or any object in space is preview of it getting hit by something at some point in time.
Sure, it's just on the Earth. Generally, most of the stuff that hits the Earth burns up in the atmosphere before it ever gets down. On Mars, the stuff that could get down and cause damage is somewhat smaller in size. Like there's a minimum size below which basically stuff burns up in the atmosphere of the Earth on entry. On Mars, that size is a little bit smaller. So smaller stuff can get down to the surface and cause damage.
Because a meteor buys so much and goes through so much space before it gets to Mars, right?
No, it's because of the fact that Mars has a thinner atmosphere. Mars has an atmosphere, but it's not very thick, so it doesn't. It doesn't burn up stuff quite so well.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. I see. Yeah, okay. They get more. Mars gets more small hits because they don't burn up. Okay, I see what you're saying now. Okay.
It's still, I mean, they're still going to be fairly chunky rocks, so you're going to know well in advance if something like that's going to come in. Probably. I mean, by the time we have the technology to make Martian colonies on the surface, we probably are going to have a fairly good meteor detection and protection system.
You know the asteroid that's going to get really fucking close? I think next year.
There's a bunch of them.
No, but there's one that's going to get scary close.
Apophis, I think they gave it the name.
Yes, I think so.
There's a bunch of them. They're predicted out for decades. So I mean, you can look up the entire database of them.
Yeah, no, Apophis is the one that they're actually like, they're watching because it's the one that if it's going to be close. It says pass within 19,000. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, inside of geostationary orbit.
That is, it's going to pass between us and the moon.
Yeah.
Well, it's not going to, but we're going to be able to see this shit like with our naked eye.
I'm not sure if naked eye, but telescope definitely. When the seeing is good. Yeah.
That's great. Okay, so the reason they're worried about this is because it's close enough that any unpredicted influence could be a collision course within.
Yeah, so
I think it's.
Yeah, so it's really not this approach. It's the next one that's got to be an issue.
Yeah.
And
Well, this is
like
the approach we'll see
2035
if something happens, right?
Yes.
It's the one that. Yeah. Okay.
And so there was I remember that being a bit of a discussion about 5 years ago, to where we didn't have enough data to know whether this approach is going to deflect in such a way that the next one in like 2035 or whatever is going to cause an
36.
impact. Yeah, something like that. And so it turns out that already a few years ago we knew, okay, it's not going to be a problem in 20 years time, unless there's some massively unforeseen circumstances, and they are fairly unlikely. Nevertheless, obviously we will be keeping an eye on the fucking thing.
Yeah, but see that's what confuses me when we're talking about the influences, because that's what we're talking about, something that would influence its orbit at all. Because what would it take to influence it? I mean, because like you said, we have an exceptional idea of Mars, all the bodies around us and their influences on this object. What could influence it differently? Like just our prediction being wrong?
Just our prediction of it being wrong. Maybe it's got a slightly different mass than we estimated from orbital mechanics that we measured, and that's just a matter of like maybe we misestimated something about it, and so therefore the problem is that it doesn't take much over such a long period of time to cause a significant path deviation. Like an error of like 0.001% might cause that. So there's always error bars on your measurements, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So that's why we think it's not going to be a problem, and we are fairly confident. But obviously, we will be keeping an eye on the thing.
Yeah, only because it's the closest object that's ever come close to us and observable
in recent times. In recent times that we know of. I mean, we don't want a Tunguska 2.0 unpredicted. Preferably, and definitely not over like places like London. That'd be bad.
Oh yeah. So over the past few years, there's been a lot of talk and a lot of science going on with intercepting asteroids. They're promoting it, obviously. Well, they're promoting it as mining asteroids, scientific research. Do you think that those tests that they successfully have accomplished, intersecting one, do you think that's more towards this situation of this asteroid, or do you think it is still more of the mining? Can we mine it? Can we bring it closer? Stuff.
Why not both? I think it's a matter of general research. It's trying to develop the technology to both rendezvous with an asteroid, study their composition, see if there's stuff of value there. I mean, we've got a fair idea of what's in them, but still, you never really know for sure until you go and basically drill into the thing. And once we know what it's made out of, and then once we have a fair idea what they're made out of, we can try and decide, okay, what do we do about them? Like, is there some commercial value in it? Maybe, but that's for way down the line. At this point, we are very much in the fundamental research stage, where we don't really look at direct commercial applications. We look at more like we want to learn about the subject on the fundamental level before we make up our minds about what we're going to do with them or about them.
I feel like, because we've kind of touched on this before when we were talking about the space mining and everything, and And it definitely became a realization to me that we're talking 50 years before that becomes a thing, if that is the path.
That's still optimistic, but yeah.
No, yeah, I'm being very generous with that one. I would think that telling people we're going to test if we can intercept an asteroid because we're scared of this asteroid would be a very, very bad thing. I think that's maybe why the mining of asteroids is even a topic rather than a defense from asteroid.
So the defense from asteroids is defending from asteroids is not such a difficult thing. It's more a matter of like just money. I can guarantee you, if there was a genuine threat, then the money would not be a problem.
No.
The defense from asteroids and stuff like that, if you discover them, let's put it like this: it's sort of like an illness, and preventing or treating the illness is far cheaper than the later in the stages of the illness that you discovered, right? So it always gets more expensive to deal with it the later you discover the problem. And for asteroids, the primary money or the primary spend is to discover them early on, as soon as you can, such that the prevention and solution to them becomes as simple as possible. For example, one classic simple solution for an asteroid, in order to perturb its orbit such that it's not going to hurt Earth, if you discover it while it's 40 years away, or 20 years away, you may just have to park a massive rocket next to it, and that's going to be enough of a very slight fraction of a percentage point of change of its orbit to where it's no longer going to hit the Earth. And that's far cheaper than trying to like blow it up once it's like deep impact level. Bruce Willis kind of like it's 5 feet from your house, and holy shit, what am I gonna do now?
Yeah,
that is way late.
Welcome back, Selenian. Would that be? It's gonna be another sci-fi question. Is there a possibility they had to do this and they don't tell us? Or no. I want to reframe that. I want to reframe that question. Is there a possibility that they could use direct energy weapons, obviously, and be in the process of doing this without telling us, but taking out interstellar asteroids that some scientists go, hey, in a million years, that fucker's absolutely going to hit?
I don't think we have predictive models that are capable of going out to 1 million years for an asteroid, so that'd be unlikely. And also, a directed energy weapon is just not a very good way to do it, because directed energy weapons have a problem with collimation, where the beam, no matter how tightly you try and make it, once you go out 1 million kilometers, it's still going to be a spot that's barely, it's going to have less energy than a flashlight.
I just realized it's cheaper and more actual realistically, obviously, because they've done it, to send something to it to take it off its course. Yep. And blowing it up's a bad idea, because that just means shotgun beads.
So not necessarily, even though it's kind of a common sci-fi trope where if you break up the asteroid, it's a problem. No, it actually is a solution. If you break it up into sufficiently small chunks, it'll just burn up in the atmosphere. If you spread it out over, the problem for an asteroid is if it's big mass concentrated in a single spot.
Yeah.
It's sort of the armor and or armor and shell problem, right?
Yeah.
If you break up a shell, if you break up a shell before impact, then a thinner armor of like the atmosphere, the Earth being the armor, is going to be able to deal with it instead of where it's concentrated in a single spot.
Yeah. And as far as I know, when we look at asteroids in space, we don't get the full idea of its mass. We just get what we see for a certain amount, and then go on from there.
We have a fairly good idea. We have one of the consequences of, again, Newtonian gravity here is that if you know the mass distribution of like the major solar system bodies, then when you observe the trajectory of another object, you can estimate its mass because of how it reacts inside of that gravity field. You can estimate its mass very, very accurately.
Yeah. Why? Like, for instance, it passing between us and the moon if it was this certain amount, its influence would change. So we know that its path is based on this, its mass being this, right? That's basically how they do it. Okay. I am scared and excited.
Excited.
Yeah, like.
Have you heard of the movie Greenland?
Greenland? No, but I'm gonna write it down. And everyone keeps talking about this Expanse, and I'm gonna watch that because apparently.
I don't know if Sealion was listening in, but we were talking about the Martian society there in the Expanse and how they react to. You remember that episode where they took the one of Bobby when they took her to Earth, and where like half the crew of the Martian ship puked on. No, there's one guy who puked on landing, as he got out into the sun.
Had it on camera, and they were like laughing about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Martians have to take like pills to adjust to the Earth's gravity. Oh God, what is Don?
That's funny.
I have to check what Don's streaming right now to make sure it's not.
We're talking about the same Don, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've had many of conversations. We don't really get along much, but that's also because I call him a troll all the time.
Yeah, well, Don is Don. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, he's like the weirdest flat Earth glober ever.
Yeah. But that's why I want him to stick around. I think he'll be good for ratings.
He's difficult.
I had to ban Blatek, so I need a new.
Yeah, he goes way too far. The only issue with Don is when he gets really backed in the corner, you got to worry about TOS.
Yeah.
So just watch out for that. Yeah. But he is. I will say this. I will give him credit for this. He is an absolute expert at being a contrarian.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, it doesn't matter what the topic is. He'll devil's advocate the fuck out of it.
He's streaming David Icke right now.
I didn't even know he's still streaming. I thought he only did his music crap.
Oh, I don't know about his music. No, he's streaming it on the server right now.
Oh, okay.
Some reptilian testimony.
Oh, yeah. He loves that shit.
He got pissed at me because I didn't watch his 5-hour Masonic testimony video, but he's forgiven me now.
Oh, because I know you said you only have a little bit of time. I have a couple questions. So there's a debate tonight between Bev, Try Thinking,
yes,
and Jesse, Path of Light. Why the fuck is it at 2 a.m.?
Oh, because Bev is in the UK.
But there's got to be some other noon.
Oh, it was so hard to get that scheduled. That's the only time we could get it. We could get the
Jesse is so fucking nice. I love Jesse. He's awesome, dude. But I wanted to smack him sometimes for how passive he is. I feel like a debate at 2 a.m. is him being so passive because Bev is such a dick. Because I'm sure Bev was like, "This is the time, and this is and it's going to be stupid late for Jesse. Perfect."
Well, Bev's going to pull every trick that he can. That's just Bev's nature.
He doesn't have tricks. He has 3 spiels: Euclidean, can't measure curve, no curve. That's it. That's all I got. Well, it's very weird listening to people debate Bev. It's
like a black hole.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like kind of like Gary Wybenga, but not really, I guess, because Gary
he's so much worse.
Who, Bev or Gary?
Bev. Okay. So Bev is worse because Bev knows it's a fucking globe.
Yeah.
And of everyone in his little group, he knows it more than anybody. Bev did schooling for surveying, I guess. I don't know for sure, but he says he did schooling for survey, and he kind of talks enough to say, yeah, he took a course semester. But just in that, not that it should prove to him. But when it's explained how to measure for curvature, and then he does things like half-ass it so you wouldn't get to that step where you would see curvature, he knows it's a globe. He knows there is, like, it's just ridiculous. And that was the main purpose of his I don't think it's a flat earth.
Yeah.
It started happening where he was, I'm not a flat earther. But yeah, I consider him scammy. It's hard to say he's scammy though, because he doesn't get any fucking money out of this.
Oh yeah, he does.
Does he? Okay, I didn't know he got super chats and shit like that.
Jesus Christ! Well, no, he can get super chats. I've seen Mike Jones send him $1,500. I've seen Rocky send him $1,000 multiple times.
Oh shit! Okay,
yeah.
But okay, here's the problem:
the kind of super chats you never got, or I never
yes,
got.
Yeah. But here's the thing, and I learned this from my flat Earth days with Bro Sanchez and Dreads. I can set Blue. If you decided if we had a discussion in the background before the stream, and I said, hey, I want people to feel comfortable sending little bits, but that happens when someone sends a big one. I don't know how that works in the world, but it does. If someone put $100 super chat in my chat right now, it would incline people to put 5 and 10 just because. What they did, and this is Bro Sanchez and Dreads, they would have someone donate a big amount. And I know Nathan Oakley did this too. And only because I've seen people talk about this in the background too. You can decline that YouTube later on, that super chat. So if you sent me 1,000 just to get that going, I can decline it, but no one would fucking know I declined it. Oh. Everyone stop. Thank you, Selenian. I absolutely appreciate the super chat. He says, Mars is flat. Change my mind. I don't want to, but I'll try. I do appreciate that, sir. Absolutely do. But yeah, I think those are fake super chats.
Well, they could be.
But yeah, he does. I guess he does make it. That means, well, here's the issue with that too. I don't care if people make money on YouTube. I think everyone should. I think when you start playing the can't push a narrative to make money, like Nathan Oakley absolutely does, I think that's when you become scammy. And that's why Bev will never acknowledge anything about spherical geometry, which is ridiculous to me.
Yeah. Spherical,
that's the line.
Spherical triangles.
Yeah. Next time you talk to him, just not even debating wise, ask him if you can measure the curvature on a basketball. And just to avoid saying you can't measure curvature on Earth, he will tell you no. He's told me spherical geometry is not a thing.
Yeah, he was getting really triggered, and his crew is so Zarmar has this measurement thing that she's planned, and she's been working through it with Jesse and others, and Shoebill's been helping her as well. And the whole Bev crew was over there. Bev, Elder Bear, and I think it was just the two of them actually. But like that's like, Elder Bear is kind of the like lieutenant, right? Or is he? I don't know. What is the power structure of the Bevites?
More like Sergeant Schultz, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Buster.
Yeah. Buster. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, they were going at it for quite a while.
But yeah, I don't know how you guys do it. I've told you before. I could tell you love the shit out of it. But I think it's been about a good year since I've had any conversation with Bev, just because fuck that revolving conversation he does just irritates me so much.
The way that he can just talk for 3 or 4 hours without saying anything at all.
Yeah, he's got, like I said, it's lines are straight. Can't measure curvature, and spherical geometry isn't real. That's like I don't know how he does it, but those 3 sentences, like you said, he can make 3 hours. Yeah, those 3 sentences.
And the globe is his globe, and it's non-geometric. That's the the latest one.
Yeah. Well, that's my favorite. His globe, what is it? Globe afflicted shit he does.
Yeah.
That's it. And that is, to me, is just a pure
Calls it model afflicted.
disacknowledgement. Model afflicted. Yeah. Where he just doesn't acknowledge data. That's all he's saying. Data, your data that proves I'm wrong doesn't matter. That's all he's saying.
Apparently at Earth Awakenings, Whitsitt is debating whether Mike Tyson was a woman.
Oh, you fucking... No, he's not.
That's what I just saw it on the level.
Jesus. Whitsitt is...
They're spiraling.
You know he's on it. He's... Okay, I'm not sure if any... Blue probably knows. Blue probably will know exactly what I'm about to say. Whitsitt's... You... This final experiment... Whitsitt's fucked. Whitsitt needs to enjoy his time as one of the top flat earthers right now, because regardless of what he says when he comes back, just him going alone has put him in a very bad position. Jaren is already out the door. Flat Earth hates Jaren already. Jaren, they were worried about Jaren and calling him a shill, etc. years ago.
Yeah,
years ago. So he's already screwed. I think this is a great way out for him. But Whitsitt, oddly as it sounds, Jaren is a bigger flat earther. Austin has the better push. He's better at it.
For sure.
And Jaren ultimately put him in this situation, right? Jaren was like, I'm not going unless Whitsitt goes. And then everyone was like, what you going to do, Whitsitt? I don't think Whitsitt would have ever accepted to go if not thrown into this. You know, like they probably would have gish galloped around it. But him acknowledging a 24-hour sun. And I'm going to play the he's an honest person game for a second. He comes back and says there's a 24-hour sun. He's fucked. He will never have the leverage he has now.
No.
This whole and that was kind of one of the things that kind of made me go, was this planned? I have my outs on it still. I still doubt it's going to happen. I'm sorry. Until I fucking see some confirmation from Duffy's end.
Yeah.
I call BS still. I don't call BS. I call possible BS.
Yeah.
Long before that, Sean in the chat said they called Jaren flat Earth liability 4 years ago. Longer than that, way before that. I'm talking maybe 7 years ago when first time
started showing the ISS going across.
Yep,
that
ISS. Yes, that ISS transit was probably the moment most flat earther, a majority of flat earthers went, "Huh? What the? Who is like what?
Oh,
what?"
Exactly.
Because
they were all saying, "Why the hell did you show that?"
Yep, because and I'll say this to this day, Jaren's transit, ISS transit, is probably one of the best footage I've ever fucking seen of ISS transits, and I'm talking period on YouTube.
Absolutely.
From what you search and find, it was amazing.
Crystal clear. Somehow or the other, he managed to focus his damn camera.
That shit, it was amazing. At that point, it was good because he said he at least acknowledged something was there, and that's how he put it. Something is there, but he had to save his fan base and his subs and his views. So he went, but it's not manned, and I don't think it's natural. And that's how he always skirts around his fuck ups. But yeah, Jaren's had a big history. Matter of fact, Selenian, I don't know if you know this or not. Jaren is the 80% reason I left Flat Earth.
Really?
And it only took
because of that. Interesting.
That documentary. And that's because right after that I went and I knew Jaren. I was able to. I wouldn't be able to get him on a panel at the time, but I was able to message him and he'd respond at the time. Yeah. And I asked him a lot of questions about it. And guess how many answers I got?
0.
Yep, 0. And that was at the time when my mission was to go to every flat earth content creator I knew and start asking them the same type of questions I was asking Globers. And when I wouldn't get answers from anybody, that's when I went, Yeah, problem. But it started with Jaren. Jaren was the big one. Jaren was the one where I went, oh, these guys are full of shit. Now I got to figure out who is a content creator full of shit or not. And that scale tipped real hard towards most of them. And that's why that was the main reason I left, because of Jaren. It was a lot of things, but that was the catalyst. That was the straw. So yeah, when it comes to,
you see, Jaren is a psyop plant. He's so earnest. He's a bit too earnest, too honest.
Oh, I'll tell you right now, he's not honest at all. 9 years ago, Jaren came up with an upload, and you've heard flat earthers do it around now, but this is a time when it wasn't normal. Jaren did an upload saying, hey, if you guys enjoy my content and you support me, then I'm going to make this my full time. And if I'm going to make this my full time, you guys need to support me. So when he did that, that's when I was like, that's not a good show. So as far as I'm concerned, Jaren, from that point on, would never admit it was a globe, because it's his income.
Yeah.
I think over the past couple years, it's dramatically lessened, and he's probably gotten work since then, because he believe it or not, he streams less now than he used to. So I think maybe and I know he has a bunch of side hustles. He's been very open about that. He's been an open book when it comes to that stuff. He has a lot of side hustles and stuff, so he does have income. But I think when he tried to make Flat Earth his full push, is when he went shill. It's when he went forget honesty and truth.
Yeah, right. Well, it's hard when your income depends on something to say it's not true, right?
Yeah, and I think now this is all speculation, and this is primarily based on my journey of Flat Earth and leaving, and what I've seen from others. Ranty is probably one of the best examples of this situation that's happening. Jaren is putting himself in a situation so that when something clicks and he goes, shit, it's a globe, it's a very smooth process. It was very easy for me to stay here, because even as a flat earther, people doubted me. They used to call me 50-50. One of the big thing I used to do, and I do this now, this stream is inspired by this method of conversation. I used to do a lot of pushing back on flat earth when I was a flat earther, because I wanted to know truth. So the dome and all that kind of other shit was literally just bullshit to me. It didn't work in my flat earth concept, so I pushed against a lot of it. Well, the same kind of way I push against the globe stuff, because it's just in my nature to be a pusher. And because of that, flat earth called me 50-50, and they kind of said that my foot was always in one side was on one door and the other was out on the other. Jaren is doing that right now. Jaren is making it so he has a very smooth entrance into globe when he announces it, and it won't be very weird. And here's the best part. His views, his subs won't go away, because people are actually pretty fucking lazy. Trust me. My 1,500 plus views or subs are absolutely a majority of from when I was streaming 4 years ago. I know the majority of the people that used to watch either don't know I'm back to streaming, or they're not around on YouTube, but they don't stop subbing. They don't. Generally, people don't do that. They just don't unsub. It's very odd. I do, because there's some channels I don't want to see, but it's one of those things where he may get more subs, because Globers will then start listening to his stuff, start watching his footage and shit. He'll probably go to different topics, so he'll get bigger groups of different people that have no idea what's going on. And then that's just the reality of it. When I left Flat Earth, I still had a lot of Flat Earth friends. These panels had globs of Flat Earthers. It's different now. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm enjoying what the fuck I do. I don't care if anyone comes on or not. I'm going to do this because I like streaming. It's fun. I'm not doing it for any kind of gain of something. So it's a definite different concept for a lot of other streamers than it is for me, especially when it comes to numbers. And I was thinking about this the other day. The best part about how it is now is I get to enjoy it, be comfortable, and everything. The more views you get during a live stream, anybody at live stream knows this. The more live stream and views you get, the better your content has to get. Not that it's bad. It's just your brain goes, it has to be better. Blue, you probably know exactly what the fuck I'm talking about because you do uploads. You can't. Every time you do an upload, I'm pretty sure you're like, I can't half-ass this. If I half-ass it, I'll lose this, or people won't want to be watching this. So there is a definite level that you feel you need when your numbers start rising. And I don't mind that. I enjoy it. It's just there is added stress. If there were 30, 40 people in here like there used to be, trust me, my brain will be running 1,000 times faster. I'd probably be less involved in the conversations because there's a lot more things going on and you're running things. Not that I don't want it. It's just, it's no big deal to me. But yeah, Jaren is definitely, from what I see on his flat earth way out, it's the same path Ranty did. It's the same path I did. Same path Jose did. It is a very obvious thing if you were a flat earther and you left when people are putting their foot out the door. Witsit is very much one of these people to me. I can tell that because he doesn't talk flat earth. Generally, when a person is flat earth and they don't have very many, they don't talk how it is flat earth, but they only globe deny. They are, to me, in a situation where they don't think it's flat. They're just contrarian to it, playing devil's advocate all the time. At very best, Witsit thinks it's geocentric, and like SC Montreal, he runs on the back of flat Earth because it runs closer to his denial than any globe would. It's very simple how that situation works to me, at least. Yeah, no worries, sir. Sorry, just saw the message, Selenian. No worries at all. You're a busy man. But yeah, I'm excited.
He's sea lion, Sean.
Sea lion. Why do I keep saying sea lion? I don't know why I do that.
Thank you, Blue, because if I would have corrected him, he would have thrown
Grammar Nazi.
I was holding my tongue. I've been holding my tongue for weeks.
Look at the picture. That's a sea lion.
Well, Sean doesn't know how to pick up on context clues. Come on.
Well, here's the problem. He's one of these assholes that changes his name all the time. This is like the third time he's changed his name, and it irritates me, and my care to remember them doesn't happen. And yeah, I have a reading disability. Thanks for making fun of it, people. But
you don't have a reading disability. You're just fucking stubborn.
Lazy is the better way of saying.
Yeah.
Both.
Hey, just pull on your leg, Sean, and we'll pull that sucker clean off. You don't defend yourself.
Yeah, but Blue, you've seen it. Is that what it seems like to you for Jaren, that he's doing the on his way out thing like Ranty did?
Oh yeah, he's doing a Ranty. Exactly. I think he's been looking for a graceful way to get his foot out of his mouth for a long time now.
Mm-hmm. And that is I'm going to tell you now, it is a very stressful time in a person's life during this. That it was like a 2-month period where my brain was in complete what the F, because it was like, I don't think it's a globe, but all this shit works. I think it's flat, but none of that shit works. But I can't just be like, it's not. And then here's what made it worse. I wanted to leave Flat Earth. Do you remember when Jamie Brown left Flat Earth?
I don't.
Okay, so he was a decently sized flat earther. He wasn't like a Witsit or nothing, but he had a big following. Dumb as bricks. I have to find it. So you guys got to see this guy. He was pretty big, but he wasn't ranty big, but he was big enough that it mattered when he left. But he just out of nowhere left flat, like just out of nowhere. And the upload was like, it's not flat. And I don't know what to do now. It was very weird. But it happened to be the fucking day I was going to leave flat Earth. That fucker did it. Like at 6 o'clock in the morning, I saw it and I was like, well, I can't fucking leave now. So there was like a good week where I was like, it's not fucking flat, but this fucker just came out of left flat Earth, and it will look really weird if I left flat Earth, as if I left because of him or some shit. So I had to delay it for a week. And then it was, I left flat Earth. If anyone hasn't seen it, yes, assholes, I fucking cried. I cried when I left flat Earth. And it's on my fucking YouTube channel. If you go up there, it's the first thing you fucking see. Farewell to flat Earth. Yeah, then I left, and then Jose left, and then Ranty. There's been a few others, but yeah, it is a fucking bad. It's a weird process to go through. It's weirder to go through that process than it actually is to leave flat Earth. When I said I'm done with flat Earth, it was very easy. I knew I was done. I knew that I had to rethink how I was going about evidences and went from there. That's the thing, Sean. I'm a glober and I'm still dumb as bricks. Yeah. But those realizations, it wasn't an easy decision, and it sure as hell wasn't a fun one to go through, especially when you put yourself out there. It's a lot different than someone who's just in the chat or on a panel every once in a while that leaves flat Earth, especially when you decide you're going to keep streaming. But luckily I wasn't an auto flat earther, so I didn't make a bunch of enemies with Globe. So it was very, very, Globers embraced me a lot more than I thought. I thought it'd be like, you were stupid, happy you did it. It was more like, good on you and shit for the most part. But yeah, flat Earth, I would say more than half flat Earth said, fuck you, Sean, and disappeared. Or had a lot of shit to talk. What up, Uncle X? Over at the we're at Rumble. What is up, sir? If you would like to join, I'm pretty sure the YouTube link is in there. And then if you ever wanted to join the stream, the link is in the YouTube chat. It'd be a very much of a pain in the ass to get the link over to Rumble at the moment. But yeah, I am streaming on Rumble as well. If anyone is on that, go ahead and follow me there. Add those. I like Rumble. Rumble doesn't demonetize, doesn't take shit down. It's very unlike YouTube. It makes me want to move over to Rumble a lot more. And believe it or not, I actually get a lot more views on Rumble now. I have no idea how the hell that works. Just think that's the way their algorithms work. What's up, dispatcher? See, there's a lot of people that just over at Rumble that just hate YouTube altogether. But I was thinking about that because they're going to do that debate over at Globe Gangsters, and I was thinking about streaming it. But if I do, it'll probably be just on Rumble. I think that may be a good idea. Sean says, are all horizontals flat? For your local perception of it with your eyes? Sure, why not? Get a tool, though. Get a measurement. Yes, dispatcher, I agree. YouTube has its very garbage points. But I also started here, so it's easier and to understand and stream on. But hey, I'm on both, so I mean, best of both worlds. YouTube is good for music videos if you need to apply makeup lesson. Well, see, that's I got that. That's good. I like that. But that's the thing. I don't monetize. I'm not monetized. Or that's so weird. I don't know how that works. So I'm the streams aren't monetized, but because I'm able to monetize, my super chats are there. It's very weird because I completely turned off. I don't know if anyone that lives under a rock that doesn't use a fucking ad blocker. Do you guys see ads on my stream? Anybody?
No.
I use uBlock, so I don't ever see ads.
Yeah, I have something too, so I never see them either. Because I do know when you are monetized, like when you click to monetize a live stream, I know for a fact they throw ads all over the stream, and I hate that with a passion. I can't stand it, and I assume no one has a
YouTube without ad blocking for me is unwatchable.
Oh yeah, it's ridiculous. I won't do it.
It's worse than cable, which is an achievement. Because cable's terrible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Real, yeah. So with Fight the Flat Earth, so I know how it works. So I'm lazy. So what happens is this: if you monetize your live streams and let YouTube have at it, they will throw as many ads as they can think of until your content isn't good enough. But they'll keep throwing ads, and there'll be 10 ads through a whole 2-hour stream. What Fight the Flat Earth does is he goes into his monetization and he actually places ads into certain locations. And as long as you do that and you make make at least one of them not skippable, then YouTube doesn't add to those ads. And that is also another way to get specific advertisers to use your content rather than YouTube just throwing content onto it. But yeah, but again, he gets enough views that it's worth doing that, worth having to do that. And that's why he can't play music. That's why he has to play certain content certain ways, like, talking fast and all that kind of stuff. Otherwise he'll lose that, because I think it's every 1,000 views you get a good chunk of something, and not a great chunk of something, but every 1,000 views makes monetizing your content actually worth it. But yeah, I'm pretty sure he makes enough that he could live on, because I know I'm pretty sure he's on disability. So yeah, as a supplement, absolutely, he could probably live on it. But yeah, I couldn't do that. Even at my best, this would never have been a job. This has always been for fun. The money part is just the thank you guys, and realizing that you are happy with it, and all that money goes to is upgrading my computer so that all this can be better. Oh, Totoro, guess what I bought? I bought a drone.
I thought there was going to be a connection to me at the end of that sentence.
I'm going to get my Part 107, and I'm going to start doing work with this, because I got an Atom. I'm not sure if you know what that drone is.
I'm not into drones at all, so you tell me what it is.
It's like a DJI type drone, a mini drone. The reason I definitely wanted to bring you into this is because there are some rules that I want to break, and I need to know how detrimental these are to break.
Don't break rules that are going to land you in trouble, especially if you're going to be a licensed drone pilot.
Well, see, this is okay. So right now, this is under recreational. So FAA has a 400 foot ceiling for drones.
Right. Sure.
I recently found out that my drone is capable of so much more.
Sure.
Okay. So the other, allegedly, hypothetically, a few nights ago, I could have taken it to 600 feet.
Sure.
Allegedly, this thing is capable of 1,000. This is where my question starts. I have an app that tells me air restrictions. I am in open air, open. What is it called? Open airspace. If I were to take it to 1,000 feet for 10, 15 seconds, am I putting anyone in danger?
Unlikely. It depends on where you are, where you're going to be flying it. I can tell you, if you give me a location, I can take a look at the airspace charts.
I'll put it in the private chat.
Sure. Okay. It's more like like a specific park you want to be flying it at, or stuff like that.
Well, okay. Who's in the chat right now? Okay, I trust all of you guys. Okay, so that is the exact location because I'm going to do it out of my backyard.
Okay. I'm going to have a look it up in maps then. Give me a sec.
Yeah. No, because I definitely want to get that the apart for people who don't know. Apart 107 is basically a certificate that you would test and get from the FAA that says you can make money off of your drone. Put it this way: if I were to monetize my live stream and review me flying this drone, I could get arrested. I could get fined. I don't think they'd arrest me, but they would fine me. It is literally just a way of saying you can make money. Just like a business, you would have to, like, when I do contracting and grading jobs, to do my own jobs, I have to have a contractor's license, same type of thing. Give me a second, people. I have to do a hiatus real quick so I can take my dogs out. So enjoy this easy listening for probably about 30 seconds. All right. Told you. About 30 seconds. Had to let the dogs out. They're important. Yeah, real. I'm the closest airport to me, I believe, is probably about 6 miles away. No, way more than that. About 10, 15 miles, maybe. I think Seguin Airport is the closest one to me.
According to Google Maps, your actual area where you live is a pile of dirt. I don't think they've updated the ortho photos for your location. According to this, you live on a landfill.
Yeah. It's what you see is the early development of this place. I would say 6 months ago. that picture was probably taken 8 months ago.
Yeah, stands to reason. Anyway, according to this, you are inside of what's called an alert area, so generally not recommended to blow the airspace restrictions. There is an airport. It's a military airport right across town.
Randolph.
I wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend. I mean, if you go up to for 10 seconds, probably not going to be an issue. It's more a matter of like if somebody reports you, that might get you in trouble, and that's unlikely to happen on the first case. But if you do it repeatedly, you might get a visit from or a call from cops or something like that. So I would generally not recommend it. You're inside of an area of active flight use by the airport there, in the military airport.
Okay, so not a good idea.
Yeah, generally not a good idea. Alert areas are, they're not, restricted areas. They're not like you're gonna get the chrome bracelets put on you, but it's it is an area where active military training and flight is taking place, and yeah, not recommended to try and get into their business.
Because literally, it's just one of those things where it's like, I want to see if it can. I want to see what 1,000 foot looks like in a drone. I just think it'd be interesting.
If you go, I don't know, like 10 miles south, I'd have to look at some like usable park areas in there. There's, I don't know, there's an air park there to the south, so that's another thing. It's a private airport. Another airport to your west. There's a public air. Yeah, it's a public use airport to your north. It's a fairly busy area. I wouldn't recommend going 1,000 feet there.
The Zool, the only place I could think of to do it safely would be Zool. Zool, that's where I used to live. I used to live on that airfield. And that's only because I know all the pilots. And so I would know who's taking off and who's not. But that would be the only place I know that 1,000 foot would not be, not affect the military at all.
Yeah, if you could, I mean, you could fly a drone at the airport. You just listen into the CTAF or the Unicom frequency on there. If nobody's in the area, who gives a shit what you do? Have fun. It's a matter of like, if you hear somebody coming in or if you see somebody coming in, just don't get in their way.
Yeah, well, that would be the actual plus of it, because I know, because I've actually flown there. I know their path. I know exactly, like, because I'm pretty sure you know this, and I know Blue knows this. They have a flight path that they take that I don't think I've ever seen them divert from. When they take off from that airport, they always bank left or they bank right, depending on which direction they're going. But they never turn into the military airspace direction from that Zool airfield.
Sure, yeah, they're probably going to fly out to the west to get away from it.
Well,
I mean, that's
if they're heading towards the freeway, then they head right. When they're heading the opposite direction, which is away from the freeway, if you're looking at the map, then they head out left.
There's a bunch of other private airfields there around. So if you want to fly your drone to an altitude like 1,000 feet, I would recommend doing it at the airport or at the air park or whatever. And when you know that there's, the people there, you're not going to get into anybody else's way. That's sort of a safe place to do it, instead of just doing it, random out of your, backyard.
Yeah, you see where I'm at too. So
it's depending upon the weight of the drone, it's unlikely to be spotted by anybody or like get into people's ways. But it's just, just be a good citizen, I would say.
Just keep in mind, 1,000 feet is pattern altitude.
Yeah, so that's why when
you're right at the pattern altitude, that's where those guys are going to be.
Yeah, so that's why I would recommend doing it. Yeah, that's why I'd recommend doing it at an air park or at an airport where you can listen into the frequencies. You can look around, you see nobody's there, so you're not going to get into anybody's way.
Because I have this really cool app that I don't trust. It's called AirAware. It says it tells me where planes are, but I don't trust it. I have decided that I will not be allegedly doing this in my backyard. I don't think it's a good idea.
Yeah, aircraft on there are only going to report if they got the transponder on it. They're probably ADS-B out enabled, which military aircraft are unlikely to be. So they are unlikely to show up on there, for example. So anybody coming into Randolph Air Force Base, they're probably not going to show up on there.
Yeah.
They might, but I wouldn't bank on
it. My biggest concern is the Seguin Airport because they do take off in my direction.
Yes,
that's the one across
the runway.
the way.
Yeah, it seems the runways could be a conflict with you, so I wouldn't recommend that. 1,000 feet would definitely be on the approach sector there.
Yeah, I'm not going to do it. I'd rather not. Not here at least.
Yeah, like I said, yeah, either go to a different location or take it to an air park where you know the people there, you know the people at the FBO or like at a hangar with a radio. You can listen in, and you know nobody's coming in, so that's when you know you can have fun.
I will tell you right now, I will never go to an air park because the second I went above 400 feet, they would kick me out of there.
Maybe.
No,
they would.
You gotta always be looking though. Not everybody's got a radio.
That too.
Yeah. That's probably the most important thing. Well,
you're gonna go to 1,000 feet. Do it over one end or the other end of the runway. Don't do it over the middle of the runway. That's people cross midfield at 1,000 feet.
Okay. I was going to ask. Okay, because they're not expecting a plane to be at 1,000 feet running the runway.
Yeah, a normal way to enter a traffic pattern at an uncontrolled field is to cross midfield at pattern altitude.
That way you can get a view of both ends and not be in the way.
Downwind. Yeah.
Yes. Typically, that is done so that you can observe the windsock and determine if there's nobody in the pattern. You can determine which way the prevailing wind is going to be, so you know which way to turn into the pattern.
Yeah.
Which side of the runway to approach.
Nice. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's why there's a windsock at the airport. It's not just for the people on the ground; it's also for the people in the air.
That's why they make them big. You can see them from the air.
And they're lighted.
I honestly thought it was primarily for, excuse me, for takeoff and landing, but that would be the landing. I just didn't know they identified it the same way. The same way for the landing.
You leave and fly, 200 miles to another airport. You have no idea which way the wind is blowing.
Yeah. Okay. So
it's your idea. Find the windsock.
Yes, especially at airports which do not have an AWOS anywhere nearby, any weather reporting service,
or nobody on CTAP that can tell you.
Well, I could tell you because the windsock they had there was, I think, about maybe 8 feet long by 3 feet in diameter. It was fucking huge, and it was on a metal post that was cemented into the ground.
Yep.
Yeah, and yet from the air you can barely see them.
The weird thing is I don't ever remember seeing it when I was flying. I probably was really caught up in the flying part though.
just try to find a nice herd of cows. They'll tell you.
Oh geez, are you one of those old guys that do that?
Yeah, listen. See which direction the cows' asses are facing, because they always turn their ass to the wind.
That's the same shit that I hear out here. They're like, my mother-in-law, she always says this one to me. She goes, if the cows were laying down, bad fishing. I'm always like, how the fuck do the cows know?
Cows are amazing.
This is so off topic. I feel so bad for cows. Bad. It was 105 degrees the other day, and I was just thinking that how would I feel wearing a big ass leather fucking jacket? And I'm just thinking they just have to stand outside. It's so fucked up. This is rude. So everyone eat all the cows so they don't have to suffer. Yeah, that's my new hobby, drone flying. But I'm definitely gonna get that cert for it because I mean everyone does home inspections, roof inspections, property inspections, the whole nine with these things. It's just like a no-brainer to me.
If you can find a commercial use for it, that's great.
Absolutely. Oh, it's almost unreal how big of an industry it is now. I mean, everything from real estate, construction, you name it. They're even using drones in agriculture for spraying and shit now, because you can do the automatic grids and all that kind of stuff. I mean, those things are ridiculous. I was looking at that. There's one they use for agriculture that can that sprays. It can hold up to 500 pounds. Its payload, but that one's like $32,000 or something like that. It was stupid expensive. I would never ever get one of those. Those are like I'm pretty sure you need a pilot's license for that one.
That seems cheap for a drone that can lift 500 pounds.
I may have the price wrong.
Yeah,
like I said, I watched like 100 different drones last night, so I probably have the price wrong.
Maybe, I don't know, could be, but for 500 pounds, that's essentially a helicopter at that point. So I would imagine tack on another 0 or 2 at the end.
Yeah, actually, I can find out. I was just watching it last night. Under the most expensive drones. Okay, I found it. Oh fuck, I was so wrong. The one that has a 500 pound payload, its price range is about $234,000. It is also currently used for rescue, search and rescue. It is actually capable of having a harness and carrying somebody for a rescue situation.
Okay, that's still cheap then, but okay.
Yeah, no,
I'm imagining that. Yeah, I'm imagining that's not electric anymore. That is going to be combustion engine.
No, it still is, but the motors are so big that it has to be air cooled. It has to have air cool funnels or some shit. I don't know. They didn't get into that much detail. I'm gonna bring it up real quick. This is the one. I'm trying to get a good picture of it. It's fairly good. So this is it. I'll get the details on it in a second. So the problem with this is it looks really small, but apparently that thing is 8 feet long.
That's 150 foot runway.
Whatever. It is a... I'm trying to find it again. So that's the agricultural one.
I mean, if that's corn or okay, no, that's wheat.
Yeah. And they look small, but hang on for a sec, because the guy picks. That's a big ass canister.
Those are tractor treads there, or tracks. You saw there.
Yeah, those things are fucking huge. So that's the agricultural one.
I'm not sure that that's going to carry 500 pounds, though. Probably.
No. This isn't the 500 pound one. I'm sorry. I just was talking about the agriculture, but I saw it. So I was talking about
the 500 pound one, that's going to be essentially a helicopter.
This is the one, and so it looks deceivingly small, but they said it's 8 feet long. But this is the one that has the payload of 500. I'm going to do this. I'm going to risk. No, this is 4 years old. We'll be fine. I'm just going to make it so you guys I can actually play the audio of it. Wait a minute. I wasn't even presenting. So I'm like, it's this one. Yeah, there we go.
This drone has a massive payload capacity of 500 pounds. It is about 8 feet in length. This is a pretty wild type of drone. Now, it's intended for rescue operations, so the payload capacity would allow you to essentially carry someone to a nearby hospital.
With that kind of payload capability, you could carry 2 people to a hospital.
There isn't much information about this drone, but since it might weigh more than 55 pounds, you may need a pilot's license to fly this.
Which would make sense.
Yeah, no shit. This is a helicopter, basically.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah, but Yeah, like I said, since I got drones, I spin out like what can these things do, and they're
The
insane.
reason why I'm saying is that's a helicopter, because a Robinson R-22 helicopter has a max takeoff weight of 1,370 pounds, and it's empty as 880. So it's basically a 500-pound capable helicopter.
Yeah.
And that's a big boy. Like, I mean, well, in terms of helicopters, they're not that big, but it's genuinely like an actual proper aircraft. It's not just a baby toy.
Well, the scary thing to me is the fact that the only thing standing between that thing and Demok flying it is a bunch of money.
Yep. And yeah, like these. So, like these ones are like cheaps. These are like the $8,000 type ones right here, and these ones have like a payload of like 12 pounds. 12 pounds, you could carry bad stuff very easily.
Sure, yeah. In Ukraine, they use them for that.
Aren't those more advanced drones?
Nope. They're commercial octocopters.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, they just strap a bunch of RPG grenades on them and drop them from above.
Yes. I mean, these things are freaking, when you really think about the scheme of things, these things are insanely cheap. Like, I think this one was like only a few grand.
Yeah, and no, they're absolutely using DJI standard commercial drones there. Probably the customized software, but the actual hardware is fairly standard stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I watch this stuff, man. I want to. There's so much to do with drones. It's insane.
Oh, anyway, I gotta jump off here. You enjoy the rest of your stream.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm actually gonna be taking off. I gotta get my dogs, and I got some stuff I got to do. Anyone want to, Totoro, before you go, did you want to promote anything, or you out of here? Out of here.
Oh no, I don't typically promote anything. So you go, and everybody enjoy the rest of your day, the rest of your beautiful Friday.
I'm out of here too,
sir.
You guys take care.
Yes, sir. Yeah, absolutely. Blue, thanks for joining. Tex, did you want to close this out with anything?
Nope, I'm good.
All righty. I will see you in a second. I'm not going anywhere like out, so you can stick around.
Okay.
Let me see. I'm trying to find something. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and close it out. Thanks, everyone. It was fun. I'm going to call him Sealion anyway because I know it pisses everybody off. We're going to have that debate a little bit further when I know he has a little bit more time. But yeah, I still hold the weight that gravity is a force. And as far as I'm concerned, general relativity is just a religion based on it has to be's, and we'll add these in. Prove me wrong. Other than that, make sure you guys are part of Globe Gangster server. There will be a debate tonight or in the morning, 2 a.m. Central Time. I am debating whether or not I'm going to stream it. If I do, I know it will be over at Rumble for sure. Not sure if it'll be here on YouTube, only because I feel like if it's streaming on YouTube, I feel like I should be here and engaged. And if I stream that, it will literally just be me just watching it from there. So keep that in mind. If you see that streamed in the middle of the night, that's what that will be. Trying to think if there's anything else. I have emailed Duffy. I am trying to do an interview now that we have got the selected people to go. And I would like to go from who's going to go to now where we're at, when are you going to confirm the spots with Antarctic Logistics? So I'll let you guys know how that goes. Selenian, Seal. I don't give a fuck. Selenian. I will message our buddy again and see if he is willing to come up. But yeah, like I said, check him out on Messenger, and you will see all the companies I was talking about, and just search that up, and you'll see there was some iffy stuff with that guy. There was something else I was going to say, but I completely drew a blank, so I don't remember. So rather than talk your guys' ears off,
if it disagrees with experiment, it's wrong. And that simple statement is the key to science. It doesn't make a difference how beautiful your guess is. It doesn't make a difference how smart you are who made the guess or what his name is. If it disagrees with experiment, it's wrong.
Yeah, look, they said that I couldn't do it, so I went and did it. W's only, you know I've been winning. Top of the world, the globe is spinning. If you know, I've been on a mission. Go. Okay, let's get it. Got a little time on my hands like a wristwatch. I don't got time for the brakes and the pit stop. Race through the gridlock, take it like Chris Rock. Right to the chin, still win. Heavy metals like Slipknot. Got the driving, I got tunnel vision. I just hit my stride the way I run the business. I've been making paper like I'm Dunder Mifflin. See the end game, I got one division. Look, I don't ever bother with a critic. Hit him with a chronicle of Riddick. Boom, bottle full of Ritalin. I hit him with a little bit of riddle me this, riddle me that. My bad, fell asleep at the gas. No time to wait though. Elon Musk, I'm trying to bankroll. New Tesla just cause I say so. Electric whip like Ivan Vanko. I just did it. W's only, you know I've been winning. Top of the world, the globe is spinning. If you know, I've been on a mission. Okay, let's get it.
I've been on a mission like totally spice. I'm a baddie, she bad, but she totally nice. Nails are blue and her toes feel like white. They compete me, met jou, dat is zo voor mijn lijk. He knew it for sure, but he left with a why.